How to avoid the muddle in the middle. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, award-winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes. It's the
And
muddle
today,
in the middle time, Karen.
and what is the muddle, Peg, in case people don't know?
Oh, that muddle in the middle is when you're writing your story and you've nailed your beginning and you know where your ending's going to get, and you've got all this white space in between them that has to amount to something meaningful. As a plotter, that means, because this is how my mind works, I've got my beginning written, something happened at about 25% of the story to change the stakes, and I'm aiming for that halfway through the story mark, that kind of the top of our story arc. And something there is going to happen, which is going to change everything for the character and send them downward towards the climax. So my story arc is going to make this really nice arc, I hope, and not make this sawtooth thing on getting there. But at the same time, my character arc has to mimic that same type of thing. My characters have to grow and evolve and change too. And the muddle in the middle is making sure that you have enough tension, enough things happening that this character arc and story arc are going to flow and come up, hit that midpoint, come down to the 75 percentile, and then really pick up steam and head towards the climax. You have to have enough tension at each step along the way, so you don't go tension, tension, tension. Okay, right? Like sawtooth. You need it to be a nice, smooth story arc that can carry your reader right along with it. It's not as easy as it sounds.
I apologize.
And now Karen, who writes all about ooey gooey character feelings, how do you do it?
I have a very different approach from Peg's because I actually like the up, down, up, down. As I write that, I consider that the active reactive scenes, but I don't plot. So, Peg is looking at 25%, 50%, 75%. I write based off of my characters. So when I start my story, I know who my characters are, where I want them to start, and I have to take them to the end of the book. So we're going from point A to point Z. What's going to happen in between? I always know what's going to bring the characters into the story. So they've got their starting point. There is something that happens that thrusts them into the story. And when I keep going, I just keep asking myself, then what? So I bring in a conflict, I write the story, and then there's a little bit, there's a reaction, but then what? And when I think of then what, it's always, how can I make their lives a little more miserable? How can I mess things up a little bit more? So I don't have things laid out, and I'm not looking at percentages in the story, but what I look at is, okay, something bad has happened and they're recovered, or something really good happened and I messed it up a little bit, but now how can I screw with them? What can I throw at them that's going to make this harder? And so the way she looks at it is she's got that arc the way I describe it. I actually keep going up and up and up. And every time I go up, I make it a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse until they get to the top, which is where that climax is. So ultimately, we have the same elements. We have the strong hook at the beginning. We are, the majority of the action, everything is happening in the middle. But there are two different ways that we combat that muddied middle. So if you like the plotting and the outlining, Peg, what do you kind of work? Is there a way that you work through that to make sure that you don't get that muddiness?
Well, the way to avoid the muddle in the middle is to keep creating new tension, or to keep the existing tension amped up. You use the term, add a little more, mess with them a little more. We're really saying the same thing. We're just saying it in two different ways. Adding tension, upping the stakes is something you have to continually do to keep that middle interesting. Otherwise, you might as well just write the beginning and the end and not have a middle, right? The whole point of the middle is to keep adding to like you said, messing with your characters. I say upping the stakes or adding tension. And so we're saying the same thing in two different ways.
And
Because
that's
my
one of my
analytical brain likes to do it one way, and your touchy-feely brain likes to do it the other.
But that's one of the reasons we started this channel too, is to kind of help authors see that there are different ways to come to the same conclusion. And
I'm going to show people, get a bonus minute. I'm going to show people this. This is my characterization sheet for my new story. This is the total thing I have for 3 characters. I have a picture and I have this tiny little blurb beside it. Karen has 5 pages for every single character. 5. So, we look at things different, but it works.
All right, we'll see you next week.
All right, bye.